What is up, my friends? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analyst is work you could find over at MMA Junkie as well as linemovement.com. And on this year program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today, tonight, whenever you're listening to this. Hopefully it's before the fight. I am recording this on Thursday night, early evening, West Coast Pacific time to be specific, but the fights will be going down, that's right. Hashtag UFC Fight Island 7 over in Abu Dhabi on Yas Island. It'll be an early show, which will mean the basic math is if it's early for us here, or earlier for us here in the United States, that means they're fighting more toward the evening normal times rather than those super late or super early times that, you've seen in past Abu Dhabi shows or, other overseas shows like Australia. At least according to us Americans overseas, right? That's local for you guys. But you get what I'm saying. It can be a bit of a jumble, so not too much intangibles I'm not going to weigh into. I actually researched some trends as we head into Fight Island. By the way, you can skip ahead to the breakdown, which is always timestamped whether you're listening on YouTube. Thank you, Daniel Tom MMA, if you want to help the count there. Like the video if you're already listening to the audio version there, as well as Apple Podcast. Coming to the other platforms, but yes, Apple Podcast, former iTunes. You can still give the ratings and reviews. That helps. And of course, in the show notes of all sections and all platforms, as well as the smartphone-friendly players at mixedmartialanalyst.com. Show notes will always timestamp these breakdown shows. As per usual, you guys know the drill when it starts. And if you want to listen to even less of me, which I don't blame you, you can always skip to the very end where I recap my picks and plays for these breakdown shows. But yeah, as we head to UFC Fight Island 7. UFC on ABC 1, by the way. That's pretty cool. We'll see if they have any, what kind of packages, what kind of promos and production. I'm sure, how much of the ABC is going to do it, or they're going to allow UFC input. How foreign will it look? Little random interesting things. Cool. But yeah, looking at trends ahead, there wasn't really too many to be made that I could really see, to be honest, except for, again, when fights are at a weird time and they're having a fight early. Maybe those early prelim fights, maybe you look more toward the overs, bigger cage, etc. But aside those really basic things like cage size and time of the fight, hopefully, knock on wood, COVID will be much more under control as they had a better track record despite the sad state of things, especially in my country. Hopefully, we won't have as many fallouts, though, right? Okay. So, yeah, that'll be hopefully good. By the way, apologies I didn't have an episode last weekend. I tried to tackle down some guests for a top 5. It's just hard to book, which is understandable. Like, everyone, including myself, has a lot going on. So, with a bunch of stuff coming up for me, which I will save you, don't worry. Well, I'm not going to do much of a recap here, but it just ended up being better. Plus, again, what's kind of been going on in my country, don't worry. Don't turn this into a political show. I barely have enough listeners as it is, and even when you retweet stuff like Happy Korean American Day, you immediately lose 3 to 5 followers now. Anything race related, which I care less about the politics. I just, I like to, give big ups to everybody as much as I make big jokes toward everybody on this show. As hypocritical as I am, I try to show love. But even with the best intentions, it's a volatile time. So let's just try to keep it to the fights, shall we? As I kind of say that to me, obviously. It's more of a note for myself. Because let's be honest, not so much for you guys, but for myself, for us all. Let's be honest, we could all use a break from the madness. This is not the place to dissect that. We don't even really talk MMA news. Why the heck am I going to talk other news? Not that I'm against it. When it comes up, when it's apropos, Dan Tom will take random tangents down, hard left turns down alleys. Oh boy. But let's not do that on purpose. So, but yeah, I just wanted to say, so that's why there was really, it just, on all fronts, it was probably better there wasn't an episode. And that being said, not just overall, has this show, as we're on episode, what are we now, 239? I've given you over more than one a week since we started this show. What was it, 2016 Christmas Eve or whatever, and then even just going back to this year, this low sample size, I'm actually still on pace because I gave you guys one extra show with the recap show plus the top 5s during the holiday time when most podcasts were off. So hopefully y'all forgive me. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the top 5 shows. And again, rather than complaining about the lack thereof as far as YouTube subs, followers, and all that stuff. I know I whiffed big on my goals for 10K on Twitter and 1K on YouTube. Nowhere near on either. But you know what? I'm damn grateful, darn grateful, however you, whatever is less offensive to you, for all of you, because I really don't deserve the listeners and listenership and following that I do have. Let's be honest here, right? So to thank you guys, whether you listen and support, subscribe, support, leave those 5-star ratings and reviews, or you're sharing, giving some love on the socials, telling a friend, just the old word of mouth. And or clicking on the links, which we're going to get to before I move on to the breakdowns, to support this free show in free ways, like going to mixedmartialanalyst.com, which is one of the hosts of this show and home to a lot of my work, past episodes, past breakdowns, etc. and so forth. And of course, on the right hand side, I've got Amazon, iTunes, and even a little PayPal link there. If you really just actually do want to just throw some money the show's way. It's been being used, by the way, folks. I'm recently investing into some stuff. I had some generous donations actually recently that I've used some of, but I'm going to be investing more. Thank you. Y'all know who you are in that department. It's really appreciated. So this stuff does get used, folks. Again, thank you. So all levels of support, it's really appreciated, because even though I've being self-deprecating Dan here, feeling like I don't deserve things, the truth is, every time I post my content, no matter what it is, there's a solid group of you, from colleagues to, most of them are from other sites, which is even more nice, right? To just random listeners and everybody in between. And man, it's really appreciated. You look at, because I'm all surprised at who both doesn't share, by the way. That's always a not so pleasant surprise, but I'm always pleasantly surprised by those who do. So that's what I would rather focus on and give my love and appreciation to, and that's why I will continue to work hard and improve. Thank you guys for that. Shouts to the Fight site, by the way, as well. They recently went on, they invited me back on their panel. Hopefully I didn't jinx it. We'll talk about that, because we'll be starting with the main event from top to bottom. That's what we talked about there. That's what we'll start to talk about here. And I say jinx because I think I'm like 0-2, even though I finished last year very strong. Hopefully you guys did too. Got to tell you, cashing out some of those accounts saved my ass. I'll tell you that much. So hopefully y'all did well. We're able to cash out some of your accounts, if that's what, I know a lot of you have that trend as well, where we tend to kind of wait until the end of the year. That's when a lot of contests cash out as well, right? If you're a part of any of those. Shouts to the Gamble Masters and the Tout Masters, by the way. You can find it at the, I believe the MMA Analysis guys were sharing those links if you're into those games. But yeah, shout out to the Fight site for having me on their show this week. Going to be doing some other podcasts. I just wanted to give them a quick shout, and we'll get these Amazon reads and onto the breakdown. Of course, Amazon reads, I don't do Onnit reads, but there's Onnit and Amazon links. I like Onnit, their stuff for the hemp protein, or they don't really have it, but I use their plant-based protein now. Got some kettlebells when those were back in stock. I think they are. A lot of them are back in stock. Right meow. Yeah, all right. So we're going to just do some read-throughs for people that have clicked through. Somebody got, was this Marcy's classic toothpaste? It looks like a classic toothpaste. This thing looks like toothpaste from the 20s. All right. Somebody got a Graco 4 Evil DLX baby car seat. Graco. Oh, yeah, that's right. Those are the kid brands. Wow, those aren't cheap. Thank you for who bought that. Those things still aren't cheap, are they? Wow, car seat. You can get some cool designs in there. I would, of course, I would try to have something very inappropriate, like, probably like do some, because I'm such a contrarian. I still haven't watched Mandalorian 2, and I heard it actually is better than the first one, but, old contrarian Dan Tom is like, I'm just tired of seeing, whether it's Westerns that I grew up on or samurai films, just being culturally appropriated by fucking Star Wars and popular media, and then you got fucking... I was going to say joke and say anti-mascarano. Like, true story. I got I Dan Tom may or may not have been on a dating site, and may or may not have months ago, by the way, and may or may not have got a very bad reaction when I told someone that I was not into the Mandalorian, and when they asked why, I said because I think Baby Yoda is turning into an anti. This person was very like super liberal sensibilities in their profiles. I was like, I don't know. I heard that Baby Yoda is anti-mask, been hanging around Corano too much, and did not appreciate that joke. I don't know where I'm going with that, but like I would do a Shogun Assassin, of course. 'Cause I'm a big Shogun Assassin fan, so that was I kind of went into, my negative contrarian mind. So I don't know if I could appreciate the Mandalorian. I do like some Bill Burr, Billy Burr. So if you can't tell for this podcast, so you guys tell me if I'm wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm sure Dan, this is stop being a contrarian ass. Watch it. Feel free to tell me that. Let me know. Somebody else bought bags on board dog poop bags, Longstreet leak proof. Yeah, I need to probably get some of those too. Somebody got some Parm Crisp original. That sounds a keto snack. That sounds familiar. I think it's a regular person who's using that link. Thank you as well. I'm starting to recognize some of these purchases. Expendables 3 Blu-ray HD DVD there. Blu-ray DVD, sorry. Is that the one with Ronda Rousey? Speaking of female MMA. Stallone, I just don't know this. I'm gonna go and is that what Stallone sounds like now? Do they need to subtitle him? Has he just had like too many liver dialysises that he's just like, everything got a little blurry after my sexualist compete with Mickey. I don't know. Anyways, Vikings season 1 DVD set. Is that Viking show any good? I feel like I keep hearing about it. Let me know. More keto snacks. I think this is the same culprit there. Lenny and Larry's keto cookie, peanut butter, soft bake, 8 grams of plant-based protein. Young Ever plastic plates. All right. Karate Kid Part 2. Speaking of popular things, I still haven't watched the Karate Kid series, folks. I know they're on like season 2 or 3. Now there's like all these teenage characters. I don't know. I'm such an old man. Maybe you're getting nostalgic watching it, want to catch up. That's why you bought Karate Kid Part 2 is crazy. The guys I do jujitsu with, I went over the place like last year, and they of course, I was late, and then they were all watching like Karate Kid Part 2 and just laughing at Sato. It's just such a stereotypical character. Oh, that's Sato, man, I tell you. Brickle Men's Texturizing Sea Salt Spray for Men. I'm not going to hate. I'm spotting some grays in I'm getting some salt and pepper on the sides of my hair, if that's what that's for. Spike Ball. That's apparently a game set. This looks like I clicked on this link. It's a little trampoline. Spike Carlisle ball. Hope it's not anti-Semitic. Oh, just 10-inch LED light ring with a tripod. I got to get one of these. Whoever bought this, let me know how you like it, because I really got to check that out. And that wraps it up. All right. Thank you guys for clicking on the links at mixedmartialanalyst.com. Let me jot down the time, and we will start the breakdown. Like 15 minutes there. UFC on Fight Island 7, UFC on ABC 1, and I think that's the only names because they're not considering this a fight night, although the prelims, I believe, will be on ESPN Plus for whatever that is worth. All right. Headline by Max Holloway is your favorite -150. Comeback on Calvin Kattar +130. Tough fight to pick. Both on paper, both intangibles, and both because I like both teams. Obviously, gave co-coach of the year there to Tyson Chartier and the New England Cartel, who quietly had a strong year in their small team, granted, but still a strong year nonetheless. Got some momentum on their side. Calvin Kattar is locked in, more veteran-like than his career leads on. Tricky sample size, ready to break through, whereas Holloway is really trying to hold the door, to stop the skid of a 2-fight streak. Granted, obviously to the same guy, top level championship fights, but you know how it goes. I agree with the line as far as it being close and Holloway being favored. I am picking Holloway by decision here. However, I do not blame anybody who is picking or taking a shot on Kattar with the plus money, not just because of the late, I won't call it lazy analysis because I'm not shitting on it or throwing shade. I use it myself. I'm just kind of calling it what it is / can be, right, if you're not careful. But I don't want to go by the plus number value. But no, in this case, I believe that there's some truth there because the intangibles will click in Kattar's corner. He has the power edge. Holloway, whether how much you believe or subscribe to it or not, there is some worry as far as his chin output, confidence, focuses from behind the scenes to front lines, however you want to look, speculate, throw your tinfoil hats on. I'm not trying to further that. Hope I didn't do that too much. Although I gave some little tidbits on this week's Line Movement MMA betting show. Check that out. Great discussion on this matchup there on their YouTube channel. Just kicking ass, as well as the fight sites. Go subscribe to both. Great conversations on the main event. As well as, if you like the written form, of course, you know it, baby. My breakdown format, as always, tried and true. Every week at MMAJunkie.com, which feels like literally every week with the UFC schedule. So you can always peep the quick stats and facts over there. And of course I do video breakdowns over there as well. Shouts to Abby. But yeah, I don't blame anybody for taking the Kattar side. I feel bad. I feel like I should be picking them, but then it really looks like just bias upon bias. Maybe I'm doing a little bit of that, overcorrecting the steering wheel. However, there are some things that I do see. Uppercuts both guys can be hit with, which is funny because they're tall featherweights, tall in comparison to their contemporaries most of the time. Although they're both listed at 5'11", Max looks like it's like the 5'11" from when he got in the UFC, and he probably grew to 6 foot, maybe even closer to 6 foot, edging to 6'1", whereas Kattar, he's not short by any means, but maybe he's more of like to the 5'10" side of 5'11". At least that's what it looked like and I'm sure Max was wearing tall sneakers as he always does, so you got to factor that in. But in the face-off, they didn't look the same height. So we'll see. People always focus on Max Holloway's length and reach. Like, that's a thing. Like, y'all should have known that by now he fights longer than his 69-inch reach leads on. It's his torso length, his leg length, his style of fighting, his movement, etc. That accentuates a lot of the length there. And yeah, Kattar, where is that? Sorry, what was I going with that? Yeah, Kattar definitely has the power, and then the other intangible is where I was going. Is also adjustments. I give Kattar and his team more credit than most, it would seem, but I do think that they, have a lot of tape to work with, right? That's the thing when you've been fighting so long. You eventually, start having all these breadcrumbs proverbially, that you can follow Hansel and Gretel home with. That does tend to happen. However, Max obviously uses breadcrumbs in real time because he is a building fighter, as in he builds off of offense coming his way. And we've seen that accentuated more in understanding his game more, unfortunately for Max, in the negative, because people have been figuring out that if you can deny the building supplies, he's kind of stuck on the job site and you can deal with him a bit easier, right? Or as Reeds, as my man Paul Reed said from the Southpaw podcast, give them a follow and shout too. He was on the panel. Much respect to him and Sam. Just good dudes. And speaking of Asian Strong Media panel, which, when do you ever say that? That just sounds like an odd Asian strong panel. Does not say, we don't exactly have representation, but we had a 4 Asian strong panel. It was pretty crazy. I didn't even realize it. But yeah, shouts to those guys over at Southpaw Pod. As I got myself off track there. But yeah, so there's going to be some intangible factors. Again, back to the value statement as far as Kattar goes. But I'm still going to go with Max here. Not so much that he's more proven in the 5-round fights, or you could say that it's a jump up in skill level for Kattar, which it is in a lot of ways, especially if you're you don't. I don't want to say I'm a big fan of Zabit, so I don't want to shit on him, but especially if you're more down to earth on that perspective. Let's just say that fight. But yeah, there's just certain things that I like the kicking of both guys' games need to be noted. I didn't think I got to note too much of that in Cater, but Cater has improved. I know he got criticized a lot in that Moicano fight. But back to the uppercut note, like I feel like Max in his last couple of fights has been going back. Now that might have been the stature of Volkanovski and the style, but he's been going back to more of classic returns of slip, uppercut, hook. And I think that's going to have a lot of play on Cater. And then when I went back to watch the Cater Ige fight, Ige hit a couple different variations of that. And those were some of his best moments. I also will be looking to see if Max goes southpaw. I'm very careful because Max is one of the guys who I thought in certain matchups he was going to go southpaw, like Aldo, and he didn't, and still got it done. And I was still correct as far as the ultimate core reasoning on why I picked him against Aldo both times was the pacing. And the pockets. And, Aldo takes pockets off to recover, even though he stays on his game. It's more of a cardio. Calvin doesn't have cardio issues. He doesn't have mental weak issues. He's a durable cat, even though his nose gets clipped, like, literally almost every fight. And I expected to get clipped in this fight, probably by one of those uppercuts that I'm pointing out here. But he's never off-put by that. However, he is kind of thrown off of his game. As Shuram from the Fight Site kind of pointed out and agreed with me, where even though I believe Shuram's actually taking Cater, but I think that was a point that we both kind of agreed and highlighted on, which was like, Cater, he kind of looks to get off of his game both in victories and defeats, fights that go shorter, fights that go longer. There are those pockets in that sense, and against a building fighter, in theory, those things could be very crucial. And the southpaw note, even though like I said, I want to be careful on that because, Stephen Thompson, I thought again with Woodley and he didn't do it. He stared at him from orthodox. But if you look at Calvin Cater, he hasn't fought any high level southpaws. But all the fighters back from Feely in his UFC debut to Zabit, whenever they switch to southpaw, Ige as well. Ige hit him with the old Barao and clipped him, and that's what kind of busted his nose, I believe. He shifted to southpaw. They're having their best moments and largely winning most of the exchanges with Cater, even if they end up losing the fight, but winning most of the exchanges that are fought from southpaw. So, in other words, I have a sneaky suspicion that Cater does not do well with southpaws. So, Ivan Flores, Ryan Lazares, all those guys are really smart coaches. Max, of course, when he applies himself, it's an underrated smart mind for a fighter as well, and that comes from many people, by the way. So I got to imagine they see that. That'll be something to look for. I don't think it'll be to take away the jab so much as I think I stated on that Fight Site podcast, which I don't necessarily believe. I think I just state that out of habit. There's a couple of things I'll listen back to myself. I'm like, why did I say that? That isn't what I meant. And I'm sure I'll be called out for those things. But I remember that was one of them where I'm listening to it. I'm like, what the heck did I say that for? I don't believe that. Why did you say that, Dan? But that's something I imagine that when you podcast enough, you just say things. Hopefully not like, Brendan Schaub style things, but, you say things. But yeah, let's see. Holloway, Volk, jab in round 3, overload off of leg threats. Yeah, that was another thing. I was looking at how Max does against straight shots because most of Calvin's shots are roughly straight shots. He will kind of curve once he finds the range off of his jab and finds the range finds the range on his 2 from it. He will kind of curve it around the guard depending on how you're playing it. But really, he throws a lot of straight shots, and that was the thing is Max does really well with straight shots, hence the slip uppercut hook returns that I think will have play. And not enough circular shots, like checking hooks like Poirier had. I think those things work pretty well. Hooks on Holloway and can keep him in check. And I just don't see enough of those from Cater as far as counters. He does more checking jabs, which I love, and I hope he does more of here. And he has a nice pull counter, although he's not the most consistent or most active with it, especially if you consider for how much sometimes you'll hear corners call for it. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting fight. We're spending a lot of time talking on it. Granted, it's because it's the most interesting fight on the card, clearly. Go a lot of ways. I think we're all in kind of agreement it's going to go long. I think it's going to go decision. If you want to take any of those angles, I don't blame you, but a lot of people, especially for the main card fights, seem to be pouring on the over angles, which even my contrarian butt did admittedly take a peek at and got sworn off. Got kind of swayed off of in some spots. I'll let you know what totals I played and what I coupled them with as we get to them here. But yeah, I got Max Holloway here. I didn't play anything. I probably won't be playing anything on this, to be honest. I'll be happy to be wrong, of course, as I'm a fan of the New England Cartel and Cater and all those guys. So good luck if you're a Cater supporter in this spot. But I'm picking Holloway by decision. We'll see if he makes it look like a value spot in hindsight, like he did with Ortega. Next fight, co-main event, Grumpy Old Men, Matt Brown plus 145, Carlos Condit minus 165. I say that not just because I'm making like an old joke or a low-hanging fruit joke. You know, I love the old guys. Even though y'all comment on my young face, which I appreciate, I'm getting more toward the older and feeling older than I am. So I'm not hating, but yeah, these guys. You both weigh Matt Brown, by the way, looking every bit of 40. Oh boy. He lived a tough life, though, Matt Brown. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the dude was like, overdosing on heroin and like avoiding, getting shot at Dimebag Darrell concerts, like pre-MMA career. Jesus, Dan, wow, what a reference. Stirring tribute. Jesus, Damage Plan. Bass Flares is like his huge metalhead guy, and he was like the biggest like. And I love Pantera too, by the way. I own Cowboys from Hell is one of my favorite albums. Metal-wise, at least, and definitely from them. But, like, I remember this. He was so, like, bummed out, of course. It was, like, only a couple days after. And my buddy Ward just goes down, just to piss him off, goes, "Oh, man, sorry, I heard about what happened to Dimebag Carl." But he trying to just flip out. What the fuck did you just call him? America. But, yeah, that was, good times. I love me some Pantera. So I appreciate me some Matt Brown. Although I'm going to go with Carlos Condit here. I'm a fan of both guys. I don't want to be swayed by Instagrams, but there's a different attitude on each man's Instagram. I'll just leave it at that. And Carlos Condit, his is a headliner of its headline. It's with the. You shall ride a turtle, shiny and chrome. See, that would be the car seat I would get for my kid. I would try to get like an Immortal Joe car seat. Mediocre. Jesus Christ. Too much Mad Max I've been watching. But yeah, no. But that aside, no. On his Instagram, like, you go look at it, and Carlos Condit looks in great shape. He's making his rounds over the BMF, Jackson Link. I know those aren't the most consistent camps with the best track records, but obviously it's been his home. He's an OG. He's not going to change that. It's more about him, and he just looks in better shape. Even though I was fading him, he seemed sounded shot, dabbling with retirement. That's always worrisome. The body don't lie, work don't lie, and he's putting in that work. And I know Court McGee, I don't want anybody to get too overexcited about that, myself included, because McGee didn't even look his same as far as output, takedown attempts, all these things, right? That being said, I do believe it was the perfect fight for Condit to get his confidence back. And listening to the interviews, again, back to gauging both these guys, right? Hashtag grumpy old men, but like, Carlos Condit was just like, I want to fuck him up. Like, I haven't heard Carlos Condit like this since he was kicking in the doors of the Hard Rock, to come in for the WEC while Rage Against the Machine was playing. So, yeah, I'm going to go with that. Carlos Condit, he's got the big cage to move around in. I think that's going to keep him from getting corralled by Brown. It's probably going to be a lot uglier than we like. But if it's ugly, it's good for Matt Brown. So we'll see. I don't blame anybody taking a shot on the Immortal, but I'm going to go with Carlos Condit. I'm definitely staying away from this on my avoid, just to watch this one, man, as a fan. All right, next we got Santiago Ponzinibbio, minus 290. Li Jingliang, plus 245. I don't know why I always got to say Santiago Ponzinibbio. Like Danny Trejo introducing Selma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, I know. Crazy. I'm referencing that on this podcast. I'm only intro to the music from Dusk Till Dawn. But yeah, I love that movie. Quiet, you dog. Bow your head. So great. Bow your head. Fucking Danny Trejo. Oh, Jesus. Oh, so good. All right, Dan, get on with it. By the way, Genchi Boa, Gentle Snake, which totally sound like a date rapist nickname, not a fighter nickname. Like, Gentle Snake, it means nice guy. Genchi Boa. Jesus, Dan, only to you because you're a pervert. No, but like now it's like, what's his name? It's the Peruvian, or it's the Argentine dagger. Like Ponzinibbio, is that your fighter nickname, or did he mispronounce in the translation? They thought they asked for his nickname in high school. That sounds like it sounds like it was his nickname in high school, or at least for the ladies. The Argentine dagger. Yeah, of course. You'll leave it to me to circle the drain down to dicks. Okay, Dan, break down the fight. Is he gonna break down fights? I swear he breaks down fights. All right, sorry folks, I'm a bit rusty. Rusty, you do that anyways. All right, stop calling me out. Let's get to the fight. Ponzinibbio should win this. Like, the line should be minus 290, but not with the layoff and the X factors, right? He had this disease that kind of ate away his muscles. He thought about dropping to 155, had to build his body back up. Got booked, got COVID, which is probably, I don't want to say a good thing, because if he's a long hauler, right? There's that intangible too. But I was going to say maybe it's a good thing that, like, he got more of an extension to build his muscle back up. More of a camp. He looks and sounds confident in interviews and, the socials, but, you could only tell so much. Let me pull that up again on this. Santiago Ponzinibbio. There we go. Yeah, it's tough to tell. Let's see here. Oh yeah, no, he's looking back to normal. So yeah, I guess I could see why. He throws really nasty kicks. So does Lee. But so that'll be worth looking out for if one guy can stammer the other. But outside of that, Ponzinibbio should roll with this. This could be Li Jingliang's first knockout loss, because he gets dropped like every fight but still hasn't been stopped. Ponzinibbio is a swarmer, and I think he could swarm and hurt enough in 3 rounds. If he starts getting his groove on, the big cage will definitely help Ponzinibbio. Both guys have black belts in jiu-jitsu and get after it in scrambles, so I don't expect, should it end up on the ground, it won't be there for very long. I don't know. Unless you're going to look at like inside the distance for Ponzinibbio, if you want to sprinkle, or if he looks good on weigh-ins, you add him to your parlays for fun. Again, because parlaying is a madman sport, although I'm going to be doing that here. Then you can do that. But other than that, that's about all the options it really gives you. Unless you really believe in Lee, of course. Which, I love me. And you get the PNEDR, Chinese discount here, but not supporting my Chinese brethren today. Not today, sorry. So yeah, I'll take Ponzinibbio, Argentine dagger to. All right, Dan, let's stay away from the penis. I'll take Ponzinibbio. Let's leave. Next fight, Joaquin Buckley. His price is coming down a bit, minus 260. Which is good because you start getting 3-1. It's like, what the heck are we doing here? Plus 220 for Alessio Di Chirico. That being said, I'm actually taking Buckley here. I know I wrote him off a bit too hard for sure in that Impa Kasagane fight. Didn't I pay for it? Didn't Impa pay for it, right? But the confidence did the kid some good. Whatever his training situation is now, seems to be happy. And when I went back to watch tape for this fight, not so much that it's clear what the UFC is trying to do, which you always got to be careful on, because MMA cares not for you or the UFC's plans. But the Chirico, guy who I was probably higher on than most in his first couple of fights, has not really panned out. He fights way too close, and not in a good way. He's 0-2 against southpaws. in the UFC, and in those matchups, he's even more apt to counter, which means he's even more lower volume, which is his problem because even when he does well and he doesn't capitalize, he drops the ball. He shoots himself in his own foot so many times. His gas tank isn't terrible because he's an athlete, but he's not going to take advantage of a guy gassing. And it's not like he's got elite cardio where he's going to gas the guy out or elite output where he's going to gas the guy out. So I don't have to worry about that too much with Buckley, which seems to be less of a problem now that he's at middleweight, cutting less weight. And yeah, man, De Chirico just, he will go for opportunistic takedowns, but not enough. And the big cage, I certainly think, is going to help Buckley there. And I think we're just going to get a striking match. I would not be surprised to see Buckley become perhaps the first person to finish De Chirico. Like, he seems durable, but then, and not that Zach Cummings doesn't hit soft, by the way, but like you saw Zach Cummings, right? Rock him really bad at the end of their fight there, and you stop and look at it, and you're like, yeah, this guy really hasn't fought any big hitters except for Ali Wally Bongbose, who was like fighting one of the worst. He got flushed out quick and fought one of the worst fights even within his level and his tenure, right? Where he was literally like jumping into the knees to give De Chirico the one finish he has as far as his UFC record goes. So I don't think he's really going to finish Buckley or put together that kind of consistent work and all the other things that Kevin Holland had to do to get that finish, kind of like Kevin Holland said. He's like, I bless my son. Look at what my son is doing. And, I'm going to support Kevin Holland's son, Joaquin Buckley here. I've got him in a couple parlays for, I would say for fun because I don't. But as far as like, if you look at what I'm totally betting here, then yeah, I mean, it's kind of my core chalk. So, yeah, it's not sexy, folks. I'm taking a lot of chalk through this week looking ahead too, so do not be surprised. It's a bit chalky out in these streets. Next fight, I'm not actually taking chalk, although I don't blame any of y'all for it. I expect this fight will draw probably the most action. For hardcores to bettors alike, this is going to be the fight of the night here, right? Dusko Todorovic, minus 155. Punahele Soriano, plus 135. I don't know Puna personally, but yes, you can say the Hawaiian bias, extreme couture bias, or more honestly, it's really the Eric Nixick bias, right? Eric will be in his corner there. That being said, I mean, something I've been saying since back when I cashed and picked, Rick Story to beat Thiago Alves as like a plus 275 dog. Durable southpaws who can wrestle are some of my favorite underdog archetypes, and for good obvious reason. That is Puna. He looks like he can gas because he's wild. He's got that stereotype, right? However, he was able to push through despite the wild pressure cooker that can be the Contender Series that gets guys to gas uncharacteristically, plus the short notices and whatnot that tend to happen with how those shows are put together. And he claims in his wrestling days, Puna, that he preferred it when fights went long. He felt like he got better. And even though it wasn't the most impressive because both guys were, part of that was Pickett, the fight that he brought and made Puna fight, got sloppy, but he did tough it out, right? Whereas Todorovic, it's funny because he's got the experience edge here. He's the deserved favorite. I'm a big Todorovic fan, by the way. I don't blame anybody for picking him or even playing him here. I don't think anybody should, we'll get to how I think that the plays break down here. But I just want to state my bias so no one thinks that I'm like telling you to follow me off a cliff or anything because I'm only sprinkling light on the dog here. I don't blame anybody for playing Todorovic. He is the deserved favorite. He's going to have, he's more active as of late. He's already fought on Fight Island and traveled, right? So he's gotten that out of his system. He'll have the edge there. The bigger cage will definitely help Todorovic from a stylistic standpoint. He likes movement. However, the one thing I don't like about Todorovic, which is weird, it's like I want to give him credit for this, for being, because he's a smart guy, and boxing and clinch, that's my shit, Randy Couture style. But it's just weird that like a black belt in Taekwondo and a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Todorovic is, he fights complete opposite. He fights boxing, and then he fights clinch against the cage, right? Not using the kicks, not using the Jiu-Jitsu, which is fine. I love that style better. But I'm just saying it's kind of weird. And he actually does have some like Serbian wrestling creds, but it's always hard to tell what that means, right? As far as that goes, because even though his top game is really good, his mat wrestling is really good, his takedown game hasn't really impressed me. Both takedowns that I've seen him fail and complete, he's done it with like really odd and broken postures. That just looks like, and against guys that aren't that great. And he's built off his game to his credit as far as his high underhook and good head position. He also had good fundamentals. I was just like, okay, fine, box instead of kick, whatever works for you, dude. But like, why are you crowding your work and always crowding into the clinch when you don't need to? And he kept doing that in his Contender Series fight, and it was really odd. And I've seen him do that in other fights before, and he's kind of done it a little bit since, even though you forget about it, because once the kid turns up and on, you just see this natural ability, this flow that's so freaking fun to watch, right? I love Todorovic. Like, I love both these guys. I give them both very high grades. I believe A's, or if not close to it, for their Contender Series grades, okay? But I do wonder, like, so now what's going to happen when you size up with a much more physical middleweight? Because, like, he also hasn't faced, like, he's not the biggest middleweight. I think he's, like, an inch taller than Soriano, where he's 6'1". Like, Todorovic looks like he's generously listed at 6 foot, 5'11". He looks like he's more 5'11", and, like, probably more toward, gun to the head, more toward the 5'10" mark than the 6 foot mark. Yet he's listed at 6'1". I don't know about that. Maybe it's because of his, like, weird, like, head, his kind of big baby face, young head. He's got this weird, like, it's kind of like a giant baby in there, which is, I get why people compared him to Fedor. He certainly has the belief in himself. He certainly has a specialty in his style. I think the kid has a high ceiling. Again, you're not crazy for supporting this kid here. But there are certain things like that I do worry about as far as, like, playing against the cage. Now you're going to do it with not just a bigger guy, but like one of your first opponents with like an actual legit wrestling base. I know when he fought Michel Pereira and knocked him out, even though Michel Pereira didn't use it as much then or in that fight, Pereira does have an underrated regional wrestling, Brazilian wrestling thing. But again, kind of like the Serbian thing, like, what does that really mean, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's not really the heart of either of those guys' games either. So now he's going to go against, a Division 3 wrestler. Granted, Division 3, Division 2. You gotta be careful when you say these things, because, like, I just did that top 10 article for Bellator guys, and it's loaded with Division 2 guys. And I remember that was a big talking point. I think Woodley was saying it, and you got the Gen Pop saying it, like, going, Usman was Division 2. He can't even hold my jockstrap. I was Division 1 All-American, Big Ten, da-da-da-da, right? And that it doesn't always it's MMA, it's how your style translates to MMA and who you are, right? There's so many other intangibles than just reading off a dang resume. So you got to be careful when you judge those things. He also went to his Wartburg College. It was a competitive school where he got All-American honors, I believe, by his senior year, and was like a top 10 ranked in NCAA for his division. So, in Iowa over there. So he was wrestling on the mainland, folks, okay? And then also something I didn't realize until I reviewed his profile this week is the dude's brown belt in judo. And it's not just something that maybe he did it as a kid. Like, no, he's legit brown belt in judo. Like, you go watch that Jamie Pickett fight, and he hits this sweet foot sweep, this real quick foot sweep, and then when Jamie Pickett goes to rebalance himself and stand back up, he times a beautiful head kick that just barely misses. My man Dan Levy compared him to Vitor Belfort, and he almost like imitated Vitor Hendo too, except the finish, except he had a sweet foot sweep in there. And of course, the guy's a southpaw. He's got that left-handed bomb, and something that was really worrisome. Like, we saw him level Detlef Schrempf, Oscar Piota, with it, and that same shot. Like, I've seen Dusko hit with it a couple times, even by Teddy Ash, who, was that Contender Series fight. Who's like an orthodox fighter. But like one of the few times he shifted southpaw, like he just leveled him against the cage. It was like the same exact. It's like they were imitating Puna and Oscar, and I was like, I can't ignore that, man. I know. I always want to counter my biases, right? Kind of maybe what I did a bit in the main event as well, even though I like both guys. But I'm like, no, I can't go against what my eyes are seeing. So I ended up going with Puna here. Now, I sprinkled very light because I'm not super confident in it. I absolutely think Todorovic is a high ceiling. He deserves to be the favorite. Would not be surprised if he pulls through. However, even though Todorovic's low hands worry me, he does seem durable for his part. He rolls with punches very well. And of course, Puna, obviously being, as those Hawaiians tend to be, especially early in the career, very, very durable. So for me, I feel like if it depends. If you're playing the chalk here, I actually feel like you should stay with that money line, and stay away from the over. But if you are taking a shot on the dog like me here on Soriano, I feel like coupling the over wouldn't be bad because you could double your money if, Todorovic is as durable as I think he is, right? And let's say Puna maybe finishes after the 1.5 mark in round two. He still looks to have enough power to get finishes in round two. And again, Puna has proven that he can win decisions. So maybe you double dip, or I get it as a hedge for Todorovic because even if Todorovic is able to finish Puna, I feel like Puna is at least durable enough to survive a round and a half, right? And then you look at even Todorovic will kind of crowd and interrupt his own work sometimes. As beautiful as his killer instinct it can be in many other instances, he's not beyond crowding his own work too, right? And it's the bigger cage, so that could prolong space between exchanges, etc. So I feel like that over 1.5, minus 170, minus 166, it got bet up a lot since minus 125 or minus 135 that I got it at. However, it's still a decent point of entry if you're considering Todorovic is like sitting not much cheaper, minus 155 or minus 150, and I expect that line actually to get higher. I expect more money to go into Todorovic as we get closer to fight time. So, again, that over, if you're looking to hedge with the dog there, ain't bad to look at. Otherwise, good luck if you're playing Todorovic. All right, next fight, Phil Hoggs. Phil Hoggs, Phil Hoggs, let's be honest. Minus 260, and we got easy fighting. I just lost it. Nazardine Imavov plus 110. I like Hawes here. I went back to watch Imavov stuff, and he's really talented. I like the Cyril Gane comparison on the feet. He really likes that pull right hand. He's got a nice uppercut too. He's like iced guys down on the regional scene. That could come in handy against a level changing opponent like Hawes. And the guy's got some nice front chokes as well, which will come in handy. And you're getting plus money on Imavov, so I wouldn't worry about props. But I think sub could be lively here because if he does rock Hawes, I think Hawes shoots into a guillotine. The guy, That being said, Imavov, not impressed with his wrestling. I know he's a Dagestani guy, but he's a longtime Frenchman. You can hear it in his voice. Not hating on France. I'm just saying, it's not like a dude who's raised in the Caucasus, forged by iron. It's this guy's an MMA factory guy. Hence the Cyril Gane comparison in the open that I said. So I don't know if he's going to out wrestle Hawes. Hawes looks like especially early for the first round and a half. After that, Hawes looks like he could tire and lose composure, etc. So the later it goes, you gotta like Imavov there. I actually went opposite here. I took a shot on the under, which you can still get for plus money, I believe. Let me see here. I think it's like plus 105. It's not like the biggest thing, but plus 105, plus 110, depending on what you're looking at. Because I'm picking Hawes here. I think he gets it done early. I think he can, it's just Imavov, he's been rocked before, and I know it was a headbutt that he got hit early in with a clash of heads, but and he was eventually able to win out exchanges in the clinch. But just seeing an undersized guy who has not very, wrestling, let's just say, to put it kindly, is his weakest link, clearly, in Jordan Williams, the underweight diabetic dude who, no hate, by the way, I'm just saying, that dude's able to shove you to the fence whenever he wants, and, that's not good. I don't think he's going to be able to reverse Hawes as easily there. Ha is also training with really good guys. I really like that move down there to South Florida. He seems to really found his groove there. He seems really focused. There's really scary knockouts he took by my dude Julian Marquez there, of course, right? I would not be surprised to see more of those. When he gets beat, he looks like a guy who's going to get beat bad, right? That being said, I also believe that even though he's not going to be beyond won't be the last we see of Hawes getting, wiped out. I do believe that whether or not he will fulfill the high ceiling that was unfairly put upon him, I do believe that his head's in the right place and that he might be like one of those cases where they suffer those bad losses early and really do come back and build off it. So we'll see. It's middleweight. Imavov is only like 25 years old. He just turned 25. He's still a young kid too, man. Whereas Hawes, 32. He's really took the lumps in and out of the cage, in and out of MMA. He's got the experience. Been gaining that experience, the hard way as well. I like Hawes here, and it kind of feels like double dipping. By hitting the under, I feel like if you're on Imavov and you're taking that plus money, maybe it's more better for you to look at the under here because then if Hawes ices him quick, you at least cash some plus money. Whereas me, I'm being very dangerous. I feel like I could be, it's a little bit dangerous considering I'm coupling and it's not there's not a lot of hedging spirit there, right? Because it's not the over. But I do believe that because he comes out of the gate so hot and Imavov's style of that invisible pressure that makes guys kind of nervous because he's flashing. They know they have the counters ready, or when he's doing his prodding stuff. I know a lot of it has been his dance partners, granted, but you look at the way these guys match up. I think you get a high paced fight, and that's going to force mistakes. Either Hoggs is going to succeed, or he's going to gas himself out and then shoot into a submission, or get rocked and then shoot into a submission. That's my read on this fight. So I sprinkled a bit on Hawes at the chalk and then took a little bit of the plus money under. We'll see how I end up there. Either going to be really good or really bad. This next one's on the avoid list because I didn't tape it. Wu Yanan, who opened as a bigger favorite, money came in on Jocelyn Edwards, who fights from out of South America, I think. I'm not sure. I didn't tape that one, so I will skip it. I didn't tape this one, admittedly, but I am taking Carlos Philippe. I'm not surprised to see Carlos Philippe minus 190 opposite Justin Tafa, plus 165. Tafa looks like typical like tough chin, knock you out. Knockout's his only way to victory, which is true. However, I don't like that he can be knocked out so easily. Not so easily. It was arguably the perfect shot, but Philippe's confidence, his fat man Diaz impression. I'll take some Carlos Philippe there. I didn't take some Carlos Philippe as a bet. I didn't bet anything on that fight. Probably won't. But I'll take Carlos Philippe there. Next fight, Ramazan Emeev minus 260, David Zavada plus 220. I did end up taking Emeev. I was a little scared because Emeev, even though I've always been a fan of his underwhelming style, granted, so I shouldn't be surprised. But even with that, he's still been underwhelming. He fights very close. He doesn't really go for the finish, hence he will be in close fights. Or closer fights than he should be compared to the price tag and expectations of him, right? So that can be off-putting and make you look for the dog in general. Then you added the fact that David Zavada is actually super underrated. Not just saying that because of his last victory, but yes, add in his last victory over Abubakar Nurmagomedov, Khabib Nurmagomedov's cousin. Then but however, Abubakar is it's not super consistent. He's had impressive stuff when you go back and watch his WSOS stuff. And you know what? Even though he was really devastated and looks to be devastated, hasn't even booked a fight since then, looked crushed after getting submitted. It was actually a really nice submission from David Zavada. It was almost like some brief corner lock work, how he went for the armbar into the triangle. And it was kind of like the perfect submission, giving credit and taking no credit from Zavada, but it was the perfect submission. I don't think lightning can strike twice so much. Shouts to Ali Bagov, the only person to submit Emeev back 12 years ago. But aside from that one submission loss 12 years ago to an actual legit guy when they were young in their careers, Yeah, the multiple time combat sambo world champion Amiv's pretty good, man. I like his takedowns. He will give a bit of guillotines, so but he has really confident defense in there. But like as far as his head and arm position and stuff like that, hands on the mat, like he's not doing that stuff too badly. I like his positioning there. I think he can grind if he needs to, and his striking's pretty good too. It's just that he's heavy on his lead foot, which is why he's open to leg kicks. So that's what I looked for with Zavada. And Zavada, it's funny, he's got really good stand up. I think his knees are going to be super live here. But Zavada doesn't throw a lot of leg kicks because of his stance. He is even more front leg heavy than Amiv is, which means he's launching really fast punches and will shift with his offense really well. And then he'll shift into kicks or throw knees. But because of that, he's not really setting up or starting off with like leg kicks or those kind of range finders because he's so front foot heavy, hands first oriented. That is David Zavada. So that's a good sign if you're a Amiv supporter. Does that mean Amiv's going to win? No, but I'm going to be betting on him to win because I don't see enough leg kick coming through. And when it comes to the punches, pull counters, coming forward, Amiv's deceptive there. He's able to really mark up guys more and more consistently. And, Zavada can be hit, man, and he can be hurt as well. So I wouldn't even be surprised to actually see Amiv hurt him on the feet. Now, Amiv's not a swarmer. Sadly, he won't go for the finish, so you'll probably be getting pissed. You'll be a bit bored. You'll be like, why are you fighting so close? However, I do think Amiv will ultimately win, so I paired him with Joaquin Buckley for some not-so-sexy chalk, and I've got kind of this three-way menage a trois of two-way pairs and pairing all three together, which I'll get to in the next fight, which is Sarah Morass, Dan, stop saying it that way. Morass, minus 220 versus Vanessa Mello, plus 180. I mean, wow, I really need to apologize for Mello. She really should have got some honorable mentions on the podcast I did with Ben Cohn for top 5 thick fighters. I mean, those legs, Jesus. All due respect, she looks to only be working on the same stuff between boxing and Muay Thai gyms is the only thing on her Instagram since. That is her specialties. She has literally no takedown defense. And not only that, does not really put up a fight, both in the clinch against the cage and in the open. She'll immediately close up her guard, which to me is just seceding position, as if she didn't already just secede position. She doesn't use the look the cage to get back up. Doesn't have any urgency in those positions. And even though she could outpoint Sarah Morass on a perfect evening, it's hard to imagine Sarah not actually taking advantage on the one matchup where she actually has the wrestling advantage, because even though Sarah can make hay from both top and bottom, it's not her jiu-jitsu, her MMA, or her MMA jiu-jitsu that's lacking. It's actually quite good, and you could argue doesn't get the credit, but the reason why it doesn't get the credit is because it's missing the connective tissue of wrestling, right? That's definitely the criticism you can lobby towards Sarah Moore. And that's why even, fights where she's being competitive and more competitive than the odds or many people thought she would be against Sijara Eubanks, she was. But of course, Sijara smartly with her corner who called for takedowns were able to hit those takedowns. Hey, Brownie's in here. So she'll have Dennis Davis in her corner again, though, who, of course, I'm a little bit biased here, so admit that bias, the Piranha, who is another unsung hero over there at Extreme Couture. I know I gave love to my man Eric Nixick, but don't forget about Dennis Davis. Taught me my first triangle escape, taught Eric Nixick some of his first stuff as well. Dennis Davis is an OG, fought guys like Nick Diaz back in the day. Comes from that Pacific Northwest scene, right? The Team Quest guys. And really has worked with Sarah on getting with her kickboxing. Now, Sarah seems kind of like the 500 fighter as her record would seem anyways, but you look at that really rough stretch, she was jumping camps. And I believe this is going to be her third camp with Extreme Couture or so. So she's really been feeling her stride. I mean, again, even in her last fight where she did better than you thought. And by the way, that was the Jacksonville stretch of pandemic fights. I mean, any fights that took stretch in that, Jacksonville stretch, you got some of the most inconsistent sample sizes as far as training camps. You know what I'm saying? Be very careful how you judge fighters. And Sarah's been looking really good, and her striking has really come along, and that's what she's going to need for this fight. And if she can take it to the ground or submit this girl. If Mello, for whatever reason, decides to take it to the ground, like her corners always call for, and she never listens to her corner, she'll be in trouble. I think she'll fall into a morass armbar. So I really like Sarah here, which is really strange because I was off put. And I like Sarah and Dennis, obviously, but I'm trying to be objective here, and I see a minus over 2-1 favorite, Sarah Morass. Like, what's going on here? But when I, get to the bottom of this and research this fight as I did, I'm like, yeah, no, I actually agree with that. So whether you like Buckley and not Ameev, or you like Ameev and don't like Buckley, well, substitute a Sarah Morass in there, and you get really close to even odds, at least to kind of get your money back for whatever you want to dive in as far as your chalk. And it's only 2 legs, not bad. I did a little bit of mixing and matching with all those 3 key parlay pieces, and even parlayed all 3 together, which I think gets you like plus 354 or something like that. So good luck to them. All right, lastly but not leastly, Austin Lingo minus 220, Jacob Kilburn plus 180. Was looking at Lingo to be in that mix of parlay favorites, but I ended up pulling away. I'm going to pick Lingo, but I'm not confident in it. So many unknowns. You can't even tell what's going on his Instagram. He's been inactive. I know Safe and a lot of the coaching staff, whatever, they got hit with the COVID right recently because that Neil fight was the last card we had. He's a Fortis guy. I'm rooting for them. Love Fortis. I'm going to pick Lingo, root for them to do well here. But Kilburn, even though he looked terrible in his UFC fights, the dude does have some stupid power. But Lingo should actually have the wrestling advantage here, whereas that's Kilburn's definitely his weakest link. So I'm going to go with Lingo for a fight that I expect to be ugly and only get uglier as it goes on. And I avoided it, to be honest. All right, how did we do on time? Ooh, 1 hour. Well, it wasn't an expedited edition, so I didn't fail there. All right, recapping, starting from the top. Taking Max Holloway over Calvin Kattar. Taking Carlos Condit over Matt Brown. Taking Santiago Ponzinibbio, Argentine dagger, over Li Jing Liang. I didn't say the R word this time around, Dan. Taking Joaquin Buckley over Alessio Di Chirico. Taking Punahele Soriano over Dusko Todorovic. Taking Phil Hoggs over Nasruddin Imavov. Taking Wu Yanan over Jocelyn Edwards. Taking Carlos Philippe over Justin Tafa. Taking Ramzan Ameev over David Zavada. Taking Sarah Morass over Vanessa Mello. Taking Austin Lingo over Jacob Kilburn. A little parlay menage a trois with Buckley, Morass, and Ameev. You can combine, have some fun there. Straight plays, sprinkled a bit on Hawes at minus 129. Sprinkled a bit on Puna plus 135. Coupled those, did also for props to help those straight plays. A little bit on the Haas Imavov under plus 105 to hopefully increase the winnings or maybe hedge an upset, as well as Soriano Todorovic over 1.5. I think both guys are durable enough as some hedgy chalk there. Currently listed in the minus 166 range. All right, folks, that'll do it for me. Oh, on the avoid list, Brown, Condit, Wu, Edwards, and Lingo, Kilburn. All right, thanks, guys. It's good to be back. I'm going to be hitting you with episodes. We're going to do Monday night for Wednesday's show, which is Magni and Chiesa, and then I will record again on Thursday for Saturday's show, which, of course, is McGregor and Poirier. So good luck on your picks and plays, and until next time, protect your neck.